There's a restaurant that only opens once a day, at exactly 3 a.m., for 1 hour. No one knows who owns it, and everyone who's eaten there says the same thing. Never order the special. His name was Yassine, a taxi driver who worked the night shift in a quiet part of the city. Most nights were routine: drunk passengers, late shift workers, the occasional silence of empty streets at 2 a.m. One night, a regular customer, an old man who always tipped well and never said much, asked Yassine to drop him off at an address he didn't recognize, at the edge of an industrial district that had mostly been abandoned for years. Yassine assumed it was a mistake. There was nothing out there, no shops, no houses, just empty warehouses. But when they arrived, there was a single building, lit warmly from inside, with a small neon sign that simply read, "Open." The old man thanked him, paid, and before stepping out, said something strange. "Come back at 3 if you're curious. Just don't order the special." Yassine watched him walk inside, then checked the time. 2:47 a.m. Against his better judgment, curiosity got the better of him. He parked, and 13 minutes later, walked in himself. Inside, it looked like an ordinary diner: warm lighting, red vinyl booths, a handful of other customers eating quietly, none of them speaking to each other. A waiter, calm and polite, handed him a menu with no prices listed, only dish names except for one line at the bottom that simply read, "The special, ask your server." Yassine ordered a coffee, nothing else, and watched. Every other customer had ordered the same thing without saying a word, just pointing to that line on the menu. And every one of them received a plain white plate, empty, completely empty, and ate from it anyway, calmly, like there was something there that Yassine simply couldn't see. At exactly 3:47 a.m., 1 hour after the sign had turned on, the waiter approached every table at once and said the same thing, quietly. Closing time. Every customer stood immediately, paid in cash, and left without a word, moving almost in unison. Yassine, unsettled, paid for his coffee and stepped outside, watching the neon sign flicker, then switch to "closed" the moment the last customer crossed the threshold. He turned to look for the old man, to ask him what exactly that place was, but he was already gone. Nowhere on the street, nowhere in sight, despite there being nowhere he could have walked to that fast. Yassine drove home, telling himself it was simply a strange, quiet diner, nothing more. But he couldn't stop thinking about the empty plates, and the way every customer had eaten from them like there was genuinely something there. He went back the next night. Same time, same building, same sign. This time, he asked the waiter directly what the special was. The waiter simply smiled and said, "It's whatever you're missing most." No further explanation. Yassine, half out of morbid curiosity, ordered it. The waiter nodded, walked to the kitchen, and returned minutes later with a plain white plate. Empty, exactly like the others. He set it down gently in front of Yassine and said nothing further. Yassine stared at the empty plate for a long moment. Then, without fully understanding why, he picked up his fork. The moment the fork touched the plate, a memory surfaced, vivid and complete, of his younger brother who had passed away years earlier. A birthday dinner they'd shared as children, a specific dish his mother used to make, a conversation he hadn't thought about in over a decade. all of it returning at once, as clear as if it were happening in front of him. He was crying before he even realized it. At exactly 3:47 a.m., the waiter returned to his table. "Closing time," he said gently. Yasin looked down. The plate, still empty, sat exactly as it had before. But something about him had shifted. A weight he hadn't realized he'd been carrying for years, suddenly lighter. He paid, and as he reached the door, he turned back one final time to ask the waiter what the place actually was, who ran it, why it only opened for an hour. The restaurant was empty, completely empty. No booths, no lighting, no waiter. Just a dark, dusty, long-abandoned building. Exactly like every other structure on that street. The neon sign outside had already switched to closed, and beneath the dust, Yasin could just make out that it hadn't been lit in years. Yasin never told most people what happened that night. He still drives the night shift, and every so often, late passengers ask him to take them to that same industrial district. He always does. He never asks why. He simply drops them off and drives away before 3 a.m. arrives. If you enjoyed this story, help me out with a like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Say if you could order the special, would you?